Today we're going to show you how to make pastrami at home. We're going to show you how to cure it, smoke it, and slice it for sandwiches. All that and more on the Grill Top Experience. First step in making pastrami is making the brine. Now this full recipe and the recipe for the rub is down in the description below. You start off with a couple of quarts of water, add some salt, later add some sugar, and bring the whole mixture to a boil to dissolve everything. After everything's dissolved, go ahead and add the other ingredients, which is black pepper, yellow mustard seed, coriander, cloves, and a few bay leaves. Take the pot of brine and put it in some cold water in the sink to bring the temperature down as quick as possible. Put your brine into your curing chamber. I got this one from a restaurant supply store. It's about 12 quarts, which is enough to hold the brine and the brisket. Now this brine is pretty concentrated, and so what we're going to do is we're going to add an extra 6 quarts of plain water, and that'll bring it to the concentration that we want, and we'll have enough of it to be able to cover the entire brisket. Then take the entire mixture and put it into the fridge. You want to bring the temperature down under 40 degrees so that way it's out of the danger zone and you can keep your meat safe. Now we're ready to trim up the brisket. Off the bottom side, we're going to take all the loose hanging stuff off. Off the top, you want to limit it to about 1/4 inch or less of fat and get rid of any of the big pieces of fat as well. Now, if you want a step-by-step process of how to do this, check out my other video, link in the description. Now there's one ingredient that we save for last, and that is the pink curing salt. We put that in there last because we don't want it to start breaking down until we're ready to put the meat in. Now you can skip that step, but you'll end up with gray meat instead of the pink or dark red pastrami that you're expecting. So throw it in there and give it a good stir until it dissolves, and then you're ready to put the meat in after that. When you put your meat in is a good time to check to make sure you have enough brine. Make sure the entire brisket is covered so that way no air gets to it. If you need a little bit more, throw a little more water in there. Now one thing I recommend is taking your injector pump and pumping in some of that brine into the brisket. That helps it to make sure that the cure gets to all parts of it and speeds up the process a little bit. Now you'll notice that the brisket floats under its own weight, so what you need to do is take something heavy like a plate or a brick and place it on top of it, so that way the brisket is always underwater. That keeps any air from getting to it and makes sure the curing process works the way that it's supposed to. Now pastrami is definitely a commitment. You throw it in the fridge and you leave it there for 10 days. A week and a half, it'll sit in your fridge, take up an entire shelf, but that's how long it takes to make good pastrami. Now that doesn't mean you can't check it out every time you open up the fridge. It's always good to look at it, make sure it's still there, because in a few days you're going to be making pastrami out on the smoker. After the 10 days is up, it's time to make the rub. Throw in the coriander, yellow mustard seeds, black pepper, and cumin. Now if you have a spice grinder, now is a good time to pull it out, but if not, it just takes a little bit of elbow grease, you can grind it up. Once it's good and ground, it's time to add the paprika and the cayenne pepper. Mix that in until it's smooth. Then it's time to put the rub on the brisket. Now normally I wouldn't put this much rub on a brisket, but it actually works. In this case you want to pack it on there pretty good, make sure you pat it down and cover every part of it with a good thick layer. Flip it over and coat the other side. Then make sure you get all the edges. You don't want any piece of this brisket not covered in this rub. Put it back in the refrigerator overnight to dry. We're not going to cover it this time. And tomorrow, we smoke it. Now when you set up your smoker, what you're going to do is set it for about 225 and put a Dutch oven full of boiling water inside. What that lets us do is we're going to smoke it and steam it all at the same time until we get an internal temperature of about 200 degrees. Then the only thing left to do is to put it on the smoker.
Okay, really the only other thing you need to do is take the lid off every once in a while and give it a little bit of a spritz. You don't want to get this to turn into beef jerky, so make sure you get the edges and moisten them up just a little bit. You seal it back up. So after about 5 hours, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this because I don't want it to get dried out. I'm not going to do it real tight, so I still want it to be able to breathe, but just enough that'll hold some more of the moisture in there.
No matter what you do, brisket's going to take some time, between 8 and 10 hours usually, so you got to get in and ready for the long haul. What do you do while you're waiting? Put it in the comments below.
When your brisket reaches an internal temperature of 203 degrees, it's time to take it off. What you do is you put it in a cooler and let it rest for about an hour. If you don't have a cooler, you can always throw it in your oven. Preheat it to the lowest temperature possible, turn it off and leave the door shut. In a couple hours, it'll be done and juicy.
Cooking your brisket right is really important, but equally important is how you slice it. There's no faster way to ruin a brisket than slicing it with the grain. You need to cut it against the grain. The easiest way to do that is to cut off the corner before you put any of the rub on, because after it's cooked, sometimes it's hard to tell which direction that's going. Now here, I'm cutting it nice and thin for sandwiches, but if you want to do it hot, you can cut big old thick slices and eat it however you'd like. For me, I like to have it with some homemade sauerkraut. Now if you like that video and are going to make some pastrami, go ahead and smash that like button, and if you want to see more videos about grilling, smoking, and cooking with fire, go ahead and subscribe. There's more to come.